Hey, this is the Daily Overpass. My name is Eric and I make apps. Now today I want to talk about how with motivation, sometimes you just need somebody to push you. So somebody asked me recently if I could play any musical instruments, and although I wish I could say the answer was yes, I've never really learned any. I've tried to learn a little bit, and I think I come from a musical family. My brother knows how to play instruments, and my sister does, and my kids do, but it's just something I've never really been able to do. So I said, and it's something I always wish I could do. I always admire people who could go into like a restaurant where there's a piano and just start playing, or they could pick up a guitar and just start playing. It's like a superpower to me, but it's something I've never been able to do, and I've always admired it, right? And the person said, I was just asking because, you're good with languages and computer languages. I just thought you might be good with musical instruments too. And I said, no, it's not the case. Languages, I don't know if you guys know my background, but when I was in my early 20s, my late teens, early 20s, I joined the army. They sent me to language school and I learned Chinese, Mandarin, and then later on Vietnamese. So, and then also computer languages later on. So I said, no, even though I can do languages and computer languages, I've never really been good at that. And then I started thinking about it later on, and I thought, I probably could have been good at a musical instrument. I probably, if I'd applied myself. I mean, it's not like I haven't, picked up, done YouTube videos, courses, and even purchased a few books in my time and started learning how to play a little bit of guitar or a little bit of the keyboard, but I just never kept it up. And if I'd kept it up and if I'd kept practicing and gotten through the difficult bits, I'm sure if not necessarily be talented, but at least I would be proficient. I would know how. And the reason I never continued with that kind of stuff was because it got difficult. It got difficult, and as it got more difficult, my attention to it waned, and I moved on to something else. The shiny object syndrome. I didn't keep at it, and I just sort of thought, I can't be bothered to practice that guitar anymore. It's too difficult. I'm just not naturally inclined to do it. But I always thought I was naturally inclined for languages and computer languages. And then I thought about it afterwards, and I thought, hang on a second. I learned to speak Chinese in the army, right? And if there's one thing, if you've ever been in the military, you know that they're really good at motivating people, right? Whether it's a drill sergeant shouting in your face, or they're going to kick you out, or they're going to, whatever. There's the army, you're motivated. You have to get your job done. And every time that learning Chinese or learning Vietnamese got difficult, I would have to push on because I didn't really have a choice. The alternative was failure or getting kicked out, and I had to continue. My first successful computer programming applications were ones where I was working for somebody else, working in a place where I had to get it done. Otherwise, the alternative was failure. I couldn't go to my boss and say, oh, you know what? I just wasn't motivated, or it was too hard. I had to, if a problem came up, I had to solve it, whether it was Googling it or researching it online, even before Google, finding some articles about it, just trial and error, just pound away at it and just blunt force my way through these issues and get things done. And then that, of course, those successes spurred me on to learn more and more as I go. So to learn more languages, to get better at the language, even when there wasn't someone screaming in my face, but it was those initial hurdles that would stop a lot of people when they start. I talked to a lot of people who says, I want to learn programming, but it's really hard, right? Or it's, I started, I read a few books, I did the Hello World, but I just couldn't proceed through it. And I know exactly what that's like. A lot of times I will start a new project. I mean, how many of you guys who are developers out there have half-finished projects or projects that you've started on your hard drive that you never continue, fully intending to continue it, but you run into a bug or a snag and it gets a little bit difficult, and the motivation to continue with it, you fully intend to do it. I just need to give that a bit more time, but you don't. You move on because you don't have that motivation pushing you forward. And I think as I started thinking about it more, I think a lot of times we need that accountability. We need that person to say, to push us, that drill sergeant screaming in our face in some cases, or just somebody to say, hey, you promised this, you got to get this thing done, and just to push forward. And once we do that, we start to realize we get over those initial hurdles of learning something. And the biggest thing is the confidence thing. We get over that hurdle that says, that voice inside that says, I can't learn to program because that's something that really smart people do. Or I can't learn a musical instrument because that's something really talented or artistic people do. Or I can't learn to speak another language because that's something that's something other people do. And once you get those early wins, and sometimes it's somebody just pushing you through those, just making sure you do it, and it's messy, and like I said, everybody knows their first program. It's messy and nasty, and they don't want anybody to see that old code, and I'm the same. I don't want anyone to see my old code, especially not when I was first learning how to do it, but I was pushing forward, blunt force, get something done, get something out there. As a confidence grows, you start realizing that there's no problem that's too difficult to learn. I'm the kind of person who can do this kind of stuff, and a lot of times it's that confidence that pushes us forward. It's that confidence that gives us motivation, right? So those of you guys who are just starting out in programming, and you get to that stage where you reach a bug and you're wondering whether or not you could get through it. We've all been there, and we all have to get through that. And especially when you're teaching yourself, when you don't have that person holding you accountable to get it done, it could be more difficult. But if you are able to do it in those kind of situations, then you're a better person than me in a lot of cases, because you're able to do that. And while you're at it, you might as well learn a musical instrument. So anyway, I just want to talk a little bit about that. Sometimes the motivation is not internal, it's somebody else making you do it. But then afterwards, your own internal momentum pushes you forward. So anyway, just some thoughts. Let me know if you agree. I mean, have you ever been in that situation? And how many half-finished projects do you have on your hard drive? Because I've got loads. None of them go to waste. I always learn something from each one, but every single one I intend to finish when I start them, and not always. So anyway, that is it for today. I'll talk to you guys again tomorrow.